and two, most notably, are 2024 draft picks. Because early on, the return, not as expected. I think many people felt like maybe Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw could do a little bit more in their rookie year. Not to say that they're not going to end up being quality players, but at least for the initial season that they had, Ennis Rakestraw dealt with a lot of injuries, and Terrion Arnold, look, we know, Matthew, that position is just brutal to learn. In the stretch of athletes that he was going up against, the Justin Jeffersons of the world, and how quickly you have to acclimate. And it took him a little bit of a while. Too handsy, as most people were saying about Terrion Arnold. But now, look, rookie season's over. The free pass is basically over. Now it's time to produce. It's a situation in which their former defensive coordinator is now somewhere else, and they're tasked with, luckily, the defensive backs coach remains in Deshae Townsend, and they get to work with a familiar face in Calvin Shepard. But what do you expect from young defensive backs? Because we all know, Matthew, how great the safeties are. We know what they bring to the table, the best in the league. If the cornerback spot, along with DJ Reed, can take a step forward, now we're talking about some, really elevated potential, maybe even top 10 NFL defense.
I know this could be the best. This has to be the best secondary at this point in the season that Brad Holmes and Dan Kimball have ever had to work with. And 2 years ago, I thought they were in a really good spot, and that kind of fell apart. But they kept it together with bandages and tape, and they made it work all the way to the NFC Championship game. But now, you're right. It's a whole different level. You got those safeties in there. We're hoping that DJ Reed is just a swap out for Carlton Davis, right? And I don't really care about the debate of who's better or not. I think they're both in the same category. You've got a starting level number one defensive back there. So can Terrion Arnold be the number two? And I think the honest answer is yes. And by the end of the season, I think it could develop into a 1A, 1B situation. And Arnold has that much potential. And yeah, he had those flags early in the season. He was a little handsy. But he wasn't getting beat on plays. He wasn't being, taken out of his shoes and misreading plays and being beat on coverage. So he didn't look like a guy that was lost out there. So I'm really optimistic on what Terrion Arnold can bring this year. And then, as we heard recently from the coaches, Ennnis Rakestraw is going to be playing on the outside. They're going to have him out there because they love what Amit could do inside and outside, but I think they want Amit at the nickel. But if Rakestraw can take some steps forward, and again, last year was almost a lost season for him with those injuries. And you're right. Terrion's the only starter the Lions really had last year out of that draft class early on. And so there was more hope, but in some ways they didn't need it all because of Carlton Davis being there for the 1 year. I do think Ennnis Rakestraw is going to, that's a guy that some of us thought if the Lions took him in the first round, we'd be happy with. And so the fact that we got him in the second round last year, there's still a lot of potential with him. He could be arguably the best number 3 defensive back in the league by the end of the season, just depending how things go. So I'm loving that. And then there's even more depth behind those guys this year. You're right, John. The secondary here could become a strength for the first time in a long time. I mean, it was pretty solid last year. I mean, it was really solid until Carlton and Amit both went down. I mean, that was just devastating late in the season like that.
Yeah, and I like the fact, too, that it's underrated. Amik Robertson, if something happens, I think provides this football team a player that can play in the nickel spot and also play outside. You saw what he did against Justin Jefferson. I do think that he's going to take another challenge saying, okay, you went out and paid, DJ Reed, and now he's in an opportunity where he can earn even more dollars in a contract. I do think he's going to bring it. I think he's going to be an unsung hero, underrated football player for this football team. And for Ennis Rakestraw, I think there's an opportunity there where, hey, they know probably he's got strengths at the nickel spot, but, the Lions, Matthew, I think you get a sense, they like versatility. They like having guys like Brian Branch who can be, one of the top safeties in the league, but also play on the outside, play at the nickel spot, just be a player that you can count on. And that's what some of the coaching staff would say is that, look, yeah, when we would ask about Ifeatu Melifonwu, they would say, look, he's just a defensive back. We can put him in a couple different spots and he could do some things. It's just unfortunate he couldn't stay healthy. But for Rakestraw, I'm curious. I do think that many people are sleeping on him because sometimes fans, when they see a player have a down year with injuries, they think that's it. I do think he's going to come back a little bit stronger and compete. And I think that might help his motivation coming in, knowing that, okay, there's some significant competition with DJ Reed and Amik Rakestraw and Amik Robertson. If he doesn't step up, Rakestraw might end up not getting some playing time.
Well, yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I call it positionless football. I mean, your offense or defense, but you're going to be doing lots of different things. And you saw the Lions moving, Derek Barnes around in that respect as well. But yeah, moving the versatility with those safeties in the nickelback and the outside. I mean, that creates a matchup nightmare for offenses on how to scheme against it. So I think you're right. I think you're going to see them like to cross train, but we saw that on the offensive line, right? Ratledge was already taking snaps at center, I think, in minicamp. So they're loving to cross train players because it just provides you that much more depth should an emergency situation take place.
Absolutely. And I do think that, if the Lions can get some contributions from some of the players that were drafted in 25, as well as the growth of some players from 2024, as well as maybe growth from Giovanni Manu, Broderick Martin, some of the players that they're expecting to continue to grow, maybe have some impact, that kind of just bodes well for this football team. So I'm definitely expecting big things from both. And I do think the competition level, I do think that they both have the right mindset. They want to get better. They don't like the fact that they maybe didn't execute at the level that they wanted. I mean, Terrion Arnold comes in and says he wants to be a guy that gets the yellow jacket right away. And I do think that a guy with that attitude will continue to get better.